Okay, everybody, it's me, Gregory Mannarino. It is Sunday, April 10th, 2022. This is my newest segment of Markets, a look ahead, and of course, it's going to be just freaking lovely. People, let's look back first before we look forward. What's the market doing? In my view, and I believe if you understand how these markets work, we are witnessing a market that is pricing in more rate hikes from the Federal Reserve. We have seen the 10-year yield steadily move higher here. Okay, this is not, an uncontrolled rising of the 10-year yield. Nothing major going on. This is just, in my view, a market saying, hey, there is going to be more rate hikes, so let's prepare ourselves for it. Now, with that said, the market has been incredibly resilient. We have the major indices not too far off from new record highs, despite the fact that, again, 10-year yield is rising. The relative strength of the dollar has been rising. We have a Dow Jones Industrial Average and an S&P 500 about 6%. 6 lousy, stinking percent off of a new high. NASDAQ about 11 or 12%. Okay. What else is going on? We are getting bombarded. Turn on the mainstream channels if you are so inclined, if you want to vomit. And they are pushing the crisis to crisis to crisis fear campaign. They are talking about recession. Okay, but underlying that, we have a public that is addicted to debt and they won't stop borrowing. That mechanism, people, you and I realized this would happen. We spoke about it here on this blog. But again, there is no real uproar. This is what's happened. And I think you are well aware of this. People have been conditioned to be compliant little freaks, okay? They'll do anything they're told to do. They have been made zombies. They have been made puppets. That's just the mechanism here, control. So people are just sitting here sucking this up, skyrocketing inflation, literally out of control, all right? And like I said, we're going to hear some economic reports, a big one this week. I think it's on Tuesday. And what are they going to do? They're going to sit around their dinner tables and they're going to talk about it and they're going to complain. But that's it. You're not going to hear any kind of a public uproar here. People are just going to sit home in their little cubby holes, their little safe places, and do nothing. And this is how they're being taken advantage of, but not you or me, all right? At least we are taking freaking action. We're not going to let the system kill us. It's just not going to happen. So anyway, on the back of what the market has been doing here, despite 10-year yield coming up, despite the stronger dollar, relative strength of the dollar, because its absolute strength is cratering. How do we know that? Well, duh. You see inflation? I hope you do, unless you're one of those, dumbed down freaks. I don't think you are. Anyway, so the other narratives that are being pushed down our throat: energy crisis, food shortage, fear. Whether or not these things actually manifest themselves to a greater degree. Look, we are in an energy crisis. Do you buy gasoline? I bet you do. Do you buy food? Well, you can see the skyrocketing price of food also being reflected in the price of crude oil. Okay, crude oil, the lifeblood of this entire thing. It fuels the world. 6,000 products, over 6,000 products made with crude oil. How does this stuff get to your stores? Well, it's shipped there, and all of those costs are being passed on to you. The United Nations Global Food Price Index, just hit an all-time high. And you think that's going to stop? Absolutely not. But people are going to continue to do what they are doing, and that is borrow to make ends meet, go into their savings accounts, whatever's left of them, to make ends meet. Here's what they're going to do. So with that said, the mechanism will remain in place. It's not going to stop. And that's, to me, it's extraordinary that people allow this to happen to themselves. It's literally the boiling frog syndrome. They're compliant little freaks. And that, to me, is clear that there is a dumbed down, zombified public, and our fake world leaders, they all know that. And so do the central banks who are driving it all, everything. All right, look, now with that said, what else can we look forward to? One more thing. A lot of people write to me and they say, hey, Greg, where's the breaking point? When are people going to, take to the streets? I don't think they're ever going to. There is not going to be a breaking point here. Breaking point meaning what? They won't be able to borrow anymore? I'm not too convinced of that. People are going to continue to find ways to do it. Moving forward. And again, we're watching a whole new demographic take place. Extreme haves, extreme have-nots. Complete wipeout of the middle class. And these people they just sit back. And they just comply and they allow it to happen to themselves. They're like sheep being marched into the slaughter. And that's exactly what is going on here. So anyway, what else did I want? There was a bunch of other things I wanted to talk to you about. Let's talk for a moment what we can expect with regard to the 10-year yield. You know why I watch this all the time. It's the benchmark and the stock market itself. What is the stock market? The stock market is a derivative as to what's happening in the debt market. It's very, very simple. The debt market drives it all. So we are seeing, at least right now, the 10-year yield 2.71. Okay, the MMRI, Mannarino Market Risk Indicator, is climbing. There is no doubt about it. Go look at it right here on my website. This is a risk indicator. It's not a crash indicator. I think you're starting to get it. Okay, but rising risk in this market means we need to be aware. It also means there is a potential to make more money in the market too. It's a double-edged sword. Rising risk, means potential rising profits at the same time. Anyway, with that said, understanding the mechanism here that the market is pricing in rate hikes, I would not be surprised. Okay, I told many of you, all of you, for months and months and months ago, we would see the 10-year yield settle above 2%. It looks to me like the 10-year yield wants to settle above 3% now. Okay, this is not in any way, shape, or form out of historical norms here. Go look at the you know what? That's a homework assignment for you. Go look at the longer term trends for the 10-year yield. Okay, people are not used to it. We have been in this, artificially suppressed rate environment for a very long time. So people, they kind of get lulled into believing things are going to stay that way. Look, that's just not going to happen. In my view, the market is going to continue to price in rate hikes. We're going to see that 10-year yield rise. We are going to see the relative strength of the dollar remain high. And the market's probably just going to shrug this all off. Now, being that we are moving into earnings season, let's think about this for a moment. Okay. It's very possible that we are going to see an upside surprise. Yes, real or not, okay, because it's all propaganda. An upside surprise with regard to earnings. And that, of course, would be good for the market. Now, if we don't get an upside surprise, let's just ponder both scenarios. Let's say, for example, corporate earnings come in really, really bad. How do you think, understanding the mechanism, these will affect the market? Well, an upside surprise, of course, the market would be happy about that, right? If, in fact, this doesn't happen, the market is going to say, whoa, hold on a minute. This means the Fed will continue to remain accommodative. Duh. And that's also positive for the stock market as it's pricing in future events. That's how the market works. Let us move forward here. Energy. I'm over here and I'm looking at charts just prior to making this video blog. it looks to me, people, and you know this already, that energy is in fact going to move much higher. Crude oil, much higher. Again, this is all a game. This is how it's being played, and we're being told it's Russia, it's Russia, it's Russia. But all this obviously started way before then. Russia has been singled out as the scapegoat for everything wrong with the world right now. It's not central banks. Remember, no world leader is going to go, look at the central banks. Look what they're doing. They've been inflating since 2008. They had this set up for probably since the inception of QE1, QE2. There was no way, you and I have realized this because we've spoken about it for years, that central banks around the world could inflate at a historic pace, none more so than the Federal Reserve, creating cash out of thin air, adding it to a digital screen, buying assets, funneling dollars around the world. And there was not going to be a terrible price to pay for this surging inflation. But now, Russia's the scapegoat, you understand? And this is how the dumbed down public are going to perceive this. Oh, it is Russia. I mean, look, that's... It's always the same. It's deflect, distract, propagandize. It's a mechanism that has been in place since time immemorial to keep the dumbed down population believing things that are completely false. And again, keeping the fear, the specter of fear in their mind so they can't function. Again, you make people afraid of one thing, they're making them afraid of multiple right now. But if you make them afraid of one, just one, you turn them into zombies. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to do with themselves. So they sit there and they comply. Yeah, that's what they do. What a mechanism, people, I tell you. It's the most twisted thing on the face of the earth. So anyway, with that said, let's summarize here. All right, we have a market pricing in more rate hikes. We're not far from record highs. Do you think we're not going to see record highs? We are. Record highs are coming for this market, and it's going to surprise a lot of people, especially those calling for crashes every single week. And you know who they are. Oh, yeah, they're out there enforcing, and they're calling for a crash every week, every month, and they've been wrong. Well, let's see, 100% of the time. Shocking to me. So these are the same people that have been wrong about cryptocurrency since their inception too. So I don't know. You can choose to listen to these freaks, or not. And I hope that you understand what's going on here. Look, at its core, you and I realize the game, and that is, despite the bullshit, despite the talks, despite the distractions, deflections, propaganda, fake news, and whatever else, central banks are going to continue to inflate. There's just no doubt about it. And again, just understanding that mechanism is so simple. Central banks are not magical. No, they're not. They can't just say, hey, we're going to keep the rates at this rate. They have to get into the market and make it happen. And that mechanism assures that more debt is going to be pulled from the future, more so as the mechanism of crisis to crisis to crisis keeps going on. But you knew all this already. Look, people, I think that you and I, honestly, are so far ahead of the curve. It's frightening. And we've been here for a very, very long time on the right side of this whole freak show, realizing what we should be doing here. I'm out here trying my hardest, trying my best to keep you all informed. Again, I am not right all the time, but for the vast majority of those times that I make a call, I am correct. And it's not because I'm any smarter than anybody else. Believe me, I am not the smartest guy in the room. It's just that I study this stuff literally around the clock, and that makes me insane. And that's why I do silly things on this video blog, because if I don't, I will literally lose my freaking mind. All right, people, look, so with that said, I think you have a very good understanding of how things are playing out, what we can expect moving forward here. It seems very, very simple to me. Again, stay in the market. Own large cap dividend paying stocks here. Look for opportunities to buy things. Energy. energy is going much, much higher, people. Now you could take advantage of this in a whole bunch of ways. You can use something like an exchange traded fund, like ticker XLE, for example. You can buy oil and gas producers, own the stock, let them pay you via the dividend to own their stock. I have this all listed right here on my website, traderschoice.net. Gregory Mannarino's top stock picks here. If you are so inclined, people, what do we know is going on? We are in a new arms race. Governments around the world are inflating their military budgets on a scale that is literally epic. So you want to get into defense contractors. I have two listed right on my website again, traderschoice.net. I have oil and gas producers listed for you. I have pretty much everything you need is on my website. It's all free for everybody. And I'm, again, trying very hard to make this easy for all of you to understand and not get fleeced. You know something? If you think about it, what is the message that is being pushed by the mainstream propaganda ministries, so-called experts in whatever field? It's comply or die. That's really it. Comply or freaking die. And people are buying it, and they are going to comply, or they believe they're going to die. That's what they've turned this into, comply or die. It's quite a thing to see. All right, look, kind of a long video. Love all of you. Please share the video and comment here. What do you think about what I have covered here? Does this make sense to you? Am I just out there? Tell me where I'm right and where I am wrong. Because look, I am not too old to learn a new trick or two. You understand? At least I'd like to believe that. All right, I'm out here. See you in the morning.